Okay. So we've kind of been talking already. I said I would give an introduction. This is Sarah, and I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Is it Palos?
Yes, Paulos.
Paulos.
Correct.
Um, you came recommended through one of the state senators, and I can't remember who it was, but I was looking for somebody to give this type of presentation for a while, and it took a lot of hunting to try and find somebody. So um, after a long waited time, we got her scheduled for March this year or May, and of course that turned out poorly for travel reasons and general gathering reasons. So um, we're happy to have Sarah here to give us some tips for saving energy and of course saving money at your home and workplace. So without further ado, I'll let Sarah take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Nick. Yes, my name's Sarah Paulos, and my day job is I'm the community engagement and program manager for a national organization that works with faith communities to help them lower their carbon footprint of their worship facilities and their members' homes. And I was with the Iowa affiliate of this organization for a dozen years prior to this. And I came to this work when I created a program called Cool Congregations to invite members of my congregation to commit to reduce their energy use by 10%, kind of like a traditional tithe, to do this as an act of faith, kind of like a tithe to the earth. And then in the first year, the families reduced about 10% on average and saved an average of $200 on their utility bills, taking simple measures. Over 250 congregations in Iowa have used this program, and now it's part of the national effort. And so, yeah, I'm very pleased to be invited to present this webinar today, Simple Solutions, Energy Saving Tips for Home and Work to Iowa County Libraries today. And I'll be talking about simple solutions you can take at home to save energy and also apply to your workplace or your small business. But I just want to take a moment and review why it is so important for us to reduce our energy use and associated carbon footprint. You know, we all want a healthy and safe environment to live in and to have our children grow up in. And we want to leave a legacy of a stable climate to our grandchildren or the people who come after us. And Iowans in particular, I think, have an affection and concern for the land. With our close connection through agriculture, we may be more aware than others of the changes to the climate that we see all around us. The increased precipitation with associated increased flooding, more extreme weather events like the recent derecho affecting 10 million acres of corn, pest infestations that last longer due to warmer temperatures, decreased populations of popular ducks and fish for sports. Well, our use of fossil fuels is driving this change. Some of the waste from burning oil, gas, and coal goes into the air in the form of carbon dioxide that contributes to the warming of global temperatures that drive the changes in our climate. So we need to reduce our use of these dangerous fuels and switch to cleaner ways of powering our homes and businesses. Iowa is leading the nation with 42% of our electricity coming from our wind industry. So Iowans understand firsthand the impacts of the changing climate, and we are leading the way to a better future. Iowans also have a strong sense of responsibility to care for our communities, doing what we can in our personal and public lives to care for everyone. So, energy efficiency. Energy efficiency, or reducing our energy use through conserving energy or using it more efficiently, is the cheapest and quickest and cleanest way to reduce emissions. It's not as exciting as solar or wind, but it's where you get the biggest bang for your buck. And by reducing our energy use, it'll be easier to meet the demand with renewables. That's the first thing a solar installer will ask you to do. First, reduce your energy use, and then you can use a smaller solar system to meet the demand. And I just want to urge you never to underestimate the power of individual action. Yes, we do need to act collectively to reduce our use of energy through government action at all levels of government, but we also need to take action as individuals in our homes and businesses. If every Iowan reduced their emissions by 10%, taking simple measures, that would prevent the emissions equivalent to removing 604,000 average cars from the road for 1 year. And that is 1/3 of Iowa's car fleet. So I want you to know that your actions are important and they do make a difference. And it may be easier than you think to achieve that first 10% reduction. The average Iowa family spends about half of its annual household energy bill on heating and cooling, about 11% on air conditioning and 34% on heat, according to the Department of Energy. And you can reduce these costs up to 20 to 30% by making some simple energy saving improvements to your home. But I'd first like to talk about the process of saving energy that will set you up for success, and then we'll look at some simple steps that you can take right away. So the first step is to get an energy audit from your local energy company. An audit will help you discover the most important steps you can take to lower your energy bill. This photo is taken with a thermal imaging camera by an auditor to determine air leaks. The blue color shows the cold air coming in under the door. This is an easy and inexpensive fix with weatherization and could help cut energy costs. And sometimes energy audits are free from your utility provider, and they're sometimes required if you want to take advantage of their energy efficiency rebates and incentives. They will likely check the airflow in and out of your building, the quality of the insulation, the lighting efficiency, and if they don't check the functioning of your heating and cooling system, you may need a service provider to give you that data. And some utility companies will customize incentives, especially for small businesses. You just have to ask. And some larger businesses hire an engineering firm to do a more extensive audit. This is also a good investment because if you take any of their recommended actions, you'll earn the investment back pretty quickly through energy savings. Now, COVID restrictions may impact in-person audit offerings, so you just have to check with your utility to see what they have for you. The Green Iowa AmeriCorps used to offer in-person energy audits in the towns they served in Iowa before COVID, and they'll probably go back to doing it again after COVID. And the first home they ever did was my home that was built in 1858. They came in with their fancy equipment, the blower door test and a thermal imaging camera. And they did an audit that revealed that the air exchange rate of my home was 50%. And they said, that's like living outside. It was definitely a drafty old house. And I see they're not doing in-person audits right now due to COVID, but you can sign up to get an energy saving kit on their website. And if you're a business owner, I suggest you look at the EPA Portfolio Manager tool. It's the best in the industry and it's free. It's an online energy management and tracking tool that enables you to measure and track the energy performance of any building over time. They have free online trainings on an ongoing basis, and they have an excellent action workbook for small business. I'll drop the link to that page there in the chat at the end of my presentation. And if you want to closely track your home energy use, the EPA also has a detailed tool called Home Energy Yardstick. You can learn about the latest in home energy saving solutions, and you can track your savings over time and see the impact of your actions. You can get a customized and prioritized list of energy saving recommendations from your home from the Energy Star Home Advisor, and I'll put that link in the chat at the end as well. But if that's too much detail for you, you just need to learn how to read your utility bill. Learn how to look at the amount of electricity that you use on a monthly basis by finding the kilowatt hour on your bill. That's kWh. That's the graph up in the upper left-hand corner there. I circled the kWh. And also the amount of gas that you use by finding the therms. That's the circle there at the bottom, therms, the energy category for gas. And so you just need to learn how to track your usage. The cost on your bill includes things besides the cost of the electrons and the gas. It includes taxes, connectivity fees, service charges, etc. So actually the dollar amount is not an accurate measure of how much energy you're using. So look for the kilowatt hours and the therms. And because you want to see if the actions that you're taking to reduce your energy use really make a difference on your bill. So keep track of that in whatever way works for you, and then make a plan. This is a long-term project, and having a work plan will help you get the job done. So to make a plan, look at your energy auditor's suggestions. They'll have written suggestions for you. Look at the suggestions on the Energy Star website, either for the small businesses or for the homeowners. There are very clear steps on how to take specific measures to reduce on their website. And then figure out what you can afford. Here's some things to consider about that. You'll want to figure payback on chosen investments. Yes, making some of these changes requires an upfront investment, and then you earn back what you invested in lower energy bills over time. Payback is the amount of time it takes to earn back your investment. Sometimes an audit by the utility company can figure out how soon you will have earned payback, or if you're a business that is considering hiring an engineering firm, they'll figure the payback for you. Figuring payback will help you decide what to invest in. It makes sense to start with the measures that give you the greatest energy savings for the smallest investment. For many, that's lighting. Switch to LEDs. Payback is generally under 4 months for a lighting switch, and then you have continued savings after that. And then be sure to take advantage of incentives to help pay for the changes you decide to make. You can see what's available in your area on this website. It's called Database of State Incentives for Renewables and Efficiency. You just type in your zip code to find out what you might qualify for. I'll put that link in the chat box also. There are rebates from utilities. There's tax incentives from the feds and the state listed on this website. There's loans, grants for businesses. And there's, here's a grant such as this one from the USDA Rural Energy for America program grants, REAP they call it. And one detail that I found interesting about this particular grant program is that it stipulates that a minimum of 20% of the funds available for these incentives be dedicated to grants of $20,000 or less. And so you don't have a huge project and you still qualify. So that's worth looking into. And Alliant Energy serves West Branch, and I see they have discounts for power strips, up to $50 recycling for recycling your refrigerator or freezer. They have discounts for tune-ups on your air conditioner, discounts on LED bulbs at the store. So it's worth looking at your individual utility company. Oh, hang on. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. So it's worth looking at your individual utility company website to see what they have to offer for you. And they have a online home energy assessment that's free, but I don't see any offer of an in-person energy audit at this time. Yeah, so another place to look for incentives, the Iowa's community action agencies, they have weatherization assistance money for low-income households, disabled, or elderly. So if you know anybody who might qualify for that, with winter coming on, I would definitely direct them to their local community action agency. They help with energy bills and weatherization. So now it's time to talk about some simple steps that you will most likely want to take if you have not already. We looked at how nearly half of the energy bill is from heating and cooling, so let's start there. Some of these are behavioral changes and some are changes to your building. So you want to avoid overheating and cooling the building. So you can set your thermostats to 68 in the winter and 78 in the summer. That's the ideal temperature. And programmable thermostats make it easy. There are incentives for purchasing and installing these programmable thermostats from many utilities. These thermostats can be programmed to automatically set back your temperatures at night or when the building is not occupied to give you further savings. I set my thermostat back to 62 at night in the winter because I sleep better in a cool room. And then I have set it so it automatically kicks back up to 68 a half hour before I get up. So the room is nice and warm when I get up. Or if you go away for the weekend, you can set it back for the entire time and have it automatically come back up to the temperature you want before you arrive home. Or if your business is closed on the weekends, the same thing. And filters. It's a small thing, but it really does make a difference. Regularly replace filters on the furnace and clean filters on the air conditioner to keep air flowing properly. You don't want those machines to have to work so hard to push air through a blocked filter. And the next thing is get a tune-up. You should get an annual tune-up for your heating and cooling system. The minimal cost for a tune-up will be quickly recovered by operating the system correctly. Many congregations I've worked with have saved big bucks by getting a tune-up and properly operating their older boiler systems. And weatherize. You know, air leaks through the ceiling and the walls and the foundations and other areas typically are the greatest sources of heating and cooling losses in a home or any building. And if you don't tighten up your home first, money spent on insulation may be wasted. The average home has enough leaks to add up to the size of an open door. So if you want to plug the air leaks to seal your building envelope, such as add air gap window films to seal leaky windows in the winter. This is something that I used in my old house to make it a lot more comfortable in the wintertime. Oh, and back to the Green Iowa AmeriCorps. After they discovered where the leaks were in my home, they spent the day sealing them up with caulk guns, foam insulation, and weather stripping. And they ended up reducing the leaks in my house from the size of an open door to the size of a window as big as a football. So I was very impressed. And the labor was and still is free. I just had to pay for the materials. They also taped up the heating ducts for me to seal those up because I was losing heat through the heating ducts in the unheated basement. So Green Iowa AmeriCorps, I hope they get back on the ground soon. You can caulk and weatherize around your windows and doors and tape up your heating ductwork yourself too. There were some really great YouTube instructional videos. This guy was really funny and accurate. But you may want to hire somebody to seal up the cracks where you lose your heat in your attic. That's a little more complicated. Remember to check for incentives from your utility to cut the cost. Once you seal it up, the next thing to do is ventilate. It sounds funny to seal up the leaks and then ventilate, but the aim is to control the airflow in your attic with properly placed vents. The goal is to have the air in your attic be the same temperature as outside air. Here's an example of the benefit of proper ventilation during a hot summer day. So when an unventilated attic is 150 degrees, the upstairs is 90 degrees and the downstairs is 80 degrees. Well, a ventilated attic on the same day is 115 degrees, the upstairs 75, and the downstairs 70. So you can see how this would significantly cut your summer cooling costs. So your home needs at least 2 ventilation sources for circulating air through the attic. Vents high, near or at the top of the roof, and low at the lower edge of the roof. Let the air circulate naturally. At the top of the roof, you can use continuous ridge vents, or you can use static roof vents, or gable end vents, or solar-powered vents, or wind-driven turbines. You've probably seen all of those. At the lower edge of the roof, install continuous soffit vents or several single vents in the roof overhang. Make sure these vents aren't blocked by the attic insulation and that they allow the air to circulate naturally. I replaced 2 small windows on the gables of my 1858 home with vents. It didn't have any vents before. And once you've plugged the leaks and properly ventilated your attic, there's still one more thing to do, and that is insulate your attic. You can warm yourself, save on heating bills, reduce problems caused by ice dams on the roof during the winter by insulating. During summer months, insulation reduces heat gain and keeps your home cool. If you're tempted to do it yourself, I would advise you to check out this site that will help you determine if that job is for someone of your skill level or if you should hire a contractor. Many utilities offer incentives to help with the cost. The recommended R value in Iowa is now up to 49 to 60. I hired a company to seal and insulate my attic, and my municipal utility gave me a great rebate, and they did an excellent job. And the resulting temperature in the summer was indeed 15 degrees cooler. It was such a relief. And in the winter, we no longer had a problem with ice dams. And I know this next one sounds really obvious, but I have been in homes where people don't do this, and it's such an easy way to save energy. Don't forget to install your storm windows in the winter if you have that type of window. My house had the old aluminum frame combo windows, so I simply needed to slide out the screen and lower the storm windows. So don't forget to lower your storm windows. And this next one is handy in the summertime. Reflective window films on your south-facing windows in the summer can reduce energy consumption by reducing the solar heat gain and cutting cooling costs by as much as 30%. It still allows natural light to enter without the harsh glare, and those are pretty inexpensive to install. And here's one other thing that doesn't cost too much and makes a difference. I had a house full of 3 teenage girls who loved to take long showers that caused a lot of hot steam to build up in the room. So they'd turn on the vent fan at my request, and then they would leave it on when they left the room. So it would run for hours. So after the steam cleared, the vent would just continue blowing the conditioned air out of the house. In the winter, we were losing the heat, and in the summer, we were losing the air-conditioned air. So I had a timer installed on the vent fan, and that solved the problem with no arguments. You can set it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. That was a slick solution. And here's another one. Plant trees next to your home to regulate the temperature of your home. Evergreens on the north and west will break the cold winds, and deciduous trees on the south and west will provide cooling shade in the summer. And for a $10 membership with the Arbor Day Foundation, you get 10 free trees. I'll put the link in the chat at the end. My grandparents had a windbreak to the north and west on their farm that cut those strong prairie winds. And my parents had several maple and oak trees to the south and west of their home, which was great because there was no air conditioning and it really kept the house a lot cooler. It still does. And with the derecho, many of you may have lost your trees. I'm so sorry. And this could be an opportunity actually to strategically plant new ones in just the right place to cool your home or protect it from winter winds. So now let's look at simple steps in lighting and appliances. Turn off the lights when not in use. Yes, very simple, doesn't cost a thing and makes a difference. And open the curtains to let in the light during the day. Then you can turn off the internal lights. Upgrade to LED lighting and invest as much as you can for the most used lights. It will pay back in 3 to 4 months through lower energy bills. And be sure to look for the Energy Star label on the package. That way you know they will perform as promised. And they're not available just to replace the regular light bulb in a lamp. They can be used for recessed lighting, track lighting, pendant fixtures, accent and spot lighting, as well as the tube fixtures. You'll have to change out the ballast when you change out your tubes, but you'll save a lot of money that way. It costs about 75% less to operate. They last about 6 times longer, and they save on maintenance costs. You don't have to get up on the ladder as often or hire someone to do it for you either. And they are dimmable. They come in many colors from cold white to warm white. They contain no mercury. Energy Star has a light bulb calculator to help you figure out how soon you can reach payback when you make lighting changes. It's part of that action workbook for small businesses that I talked about. And another tip for a business which many congregations use is to install occupancy sensors in areas where the lighting is only needed occasionally and often gets left on, like in the bathrooms. You might even love an occupancy sensor at home, like in the laundry room, when your hands are too full to flip on the switch. And daylight responsive lighting controls are awesome. The Marshalltown Public Library was the first place I saw them in operation. The concept is the same as opening the curtains when it's light out and turning off the lamp, only it happens automatically. They turn the lights off and on or dim them automatically based on the available daylight, thus producing energy savings while maintaining the proper illumination levels for the space. And here's another tip for lighting. If you have an exit sign in your business, install LED exit signs. They are on 24/7, so it really makes a difference. They use 90% less electricity than the regular incandescent ones, and they last about 3 years running continuously. And if you use holiday lights, use the new LED strings. They come in warm white and lots of colors and shapes now, and they use 85% less electricity than the regular ones. And many utilities offer to recycle the old strings as they contain valuable reusable copper. So let's go on to appliances now. Appliances can count for up to half of your household's energy consumption, with refrigerators, freezers, and clothes dryers at the top of the consumption list. Your refrigerator, let's start there. This is a really simple thing that people don't know about. Vacuum your refrigerator coils on a regular basis. I do this every year when I go to my daughter's house. Each time I get off enough lint or whatever that is to make a small blanket. It's really thick. Keeping these coils clean can reduce the amount of energy your refrigerator uses by 30%. Some coils are underneath the fridge, like in this photo, and some are in the back. You will have to pull it out from the wall to access them. And when you push it back, be sure to leave a space between the wall and your fridge to allow the air to circulate. The same thing applies inside your fridge. It needs air to circulate around inside to operate efficiently. So you may want to clean it out occasionally. Refrigerators and freezers are energy hogs because they run 24/7. Unplug and recycle your old refrigerators and freezers that are not used often or don't have many items inside. Some utilities pay you to recycle your old working appliances. I have seen refrigerators in people's basements that have a pack of batteries in them, and that's all. So please unplug and recycle your old refrigerators. And here's another step. Consider allowing some of your laundry to air dry. Anything that creates heat uses a lot of energy. If you can hang it outside, the sun actually does a better job at killing bacteria than a hot dryer. And all that lint in the lint catcher in your dryer, it's bits of your clothes coming off, wearing out your clothes. Your clothes will last longer if you air dry them. And the dishwasher, set it on air dry. Just open the door to let the dishes dry. If you do it as soon as it's done running, all that steam will rise into the air and take the water off your dishes. Use the energy saving setting and only run full loads. And here's another tip for the kitchen. Cook with electricity. The future of our energy system is to go electric and get those electrons from renewable sources like the sun and the wind. Your microwave uses far less energy than a cooktop and oven. Induction is a new way to use electricity to cook on a stovetop. It's 50% more efficient than gas or standard electric cooktops. I use a portable double burner for induction cooking, and I love it. You can set the temperature to 5-degree increments. It's a New Wave brand that we bought online for about $200. We just set it on top of our glass top electric stove, and we no longer use our old electric stovetop. We are much happier. Well, now let's get out of the kitchen and go into the office and take a look at our computers. You should set your computers on energy saving mode. You can save as much as 75% of the energy used by your computer if you put it into a power saving mode when you won't be using it for extended periods of time, and enable power management features during shorter periods of inactivity. Or if you can, turn it off entirely at night or in days when you know it won't be used. The Energy Star website has really clear instructions on how to do these things for all the different computer setups. And power strips. You can plug in office or entertainment center equipment and turn them off to prevent phantom load. That's the energy a device draws in standby mode. 6 to 12% of the nation's electricity goes to keep things in standby mode. Look for a little red light on a device that is always on to determine if it's using standby mode. And now let's talk about water. You're going to want to set your water heaters at 120 degrees. You can save up to 10% of your energy use from the default manufacturer setting, which is 140. Doesn't need to be at 140. 120 is the required temperature for dishwashers. And nowadays, a lot of dishwashers have a booster, so you really don't even need to set it up to 120. You could get by with 110. So most water heaters don't have an exact temperature dial like this one here. So just hold a thermometer under running water to see what the temperature is, or let the hot water run into a mug and put the thermometer in the mug. And more on water, wash your laundry on cold or warm, not hot water. Heating the water for washing clothes constitutes most of the energy that a washing machine uses. And use low flow shower heads and faucet aerators to cut the use of hot water. We are all washing our hands a lot more now due to COVID. I was just reading about how the 1.0 aerator cuts 50% of water flow compared to the 2.2 aerator that is commonly used. And it does it without reducing water pressure. So you might want to try out the new aerator. One more thing on water. Install hot water pipe insulation. These foam insulators are really easy to snap on yourself. Follow the pipes from the water heater, the hot water pipes, and then see if you need to insulate them under the sink. The pipes under the kitchen sink in my old house were against a cold north wall, so insulating them helped keep them from freezing in the winter when we were gone. Pretty soon, you're going to be so interested in saving energy that when it's time to replace your furnace and air conditioner, you will consider a geothermal heating and cooling system. Geothermal pumps up the steady temperature of the earth about 50 degrees to heat and cool your building. That way, you only have to heat and cool your home from that steady 50 degrees, rather than starting from Iowa's freezing winter air temps and ghastly hot summer temps. So there's two ways to install the pipes that circulate the fluid that carries the earth's temperature into your building. One is horizontally, which is generally cheaper if you have the space to do this, and one is vertically, which is more expensive but takes a lot less room. You can see both types in this drawing. And there's even an add-on to this system that you can get to heat your water. So these systems often lower the heating bill by about 50% and the cooling bill by about 30%. And there are tax incentives from both federal and state for this. Businesses can install geothermal too. These diagrams show how it works with the red and blue lines in the summer and the winter. In the summer, the cooler temperature from the earth is circulated into the building, and then the hotter temperature of the building is pumped into the earth to cool off. In the winter, the warmer temperature of the earth is circulated into the building, and the cooler temperature of the building is pumped into the earth to warm up. Here's a couple of examples. Bethlehem Lutheran in Cedar Falls installed geothermal and cut their energy bill nearly in half. And they reported a greater level of satisfaction with the comfort of the building temperature. No more hot and cold blasts, just a steady, even temperature the whole time. The Cedar Falls Public Schools installed geothermal in all of their buildings and achieved payback in just 4 months because the building is used so heavily. And for a really awesome vision, the Moodharts, some friends of mine in Dubuque who reached payback for their home geothermal system in 7 years. And that was 3 years ahead of time because it performed better than expected. And then they decided to invest in solar. And so now they are zero carbon at home. Or, you know, if you have all electric geothermal and all electric appliances, you will be positioned to be carbon free when Iowa reaches 100% of its utility electricity generated from renewable resources. So there's a vision to end on. I'd like to open up to questions now if we have any.
Sure. I actually had a couple questions. And I'll unmute the others here as well. So, is there anything that you found that people, in addition to what you said, of course, is there something out there that people commonly do that just is a huge mistake, or a product that's a big mistake, or I don't know, like, do the instant pots cause a huge amount of energy use, or something like that?
I'm not really familiar with
Okay,
Instapot, but
that was
if it's,
just an example of like,
yeah, if it's a pressure cooker, it actually saves energy
okay,
because it
so
takes you
instant
so
pot's
much
good.
less time.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want to be in the kitchen right now, I can tell you one common mistake people make is to cook without the pot lid on. It
Mm,
takes far less energy to cook that food if you leave the lid on.
mm.
That's a really easy one. Um, and stovetop cooking takes a lot less energy than baking things in the oven. So that's another really easy one.
Yeah, I was
Um,
surprised. I mean, my to add on to that, my personal experience is we've had two unfortunate instances where our air conditioning went out in the summer,
mhm.
and it's amazing how much just cooking something on the stove heated up the house.
Yes, yes. There's a lot of really great summertime meals that you can eat that don't involve any cooking.
And we started doing more with the grill. I love the idea of the induction stovetop.
Mhm.
I've been texting my coworker back and forth like, hey, we don't have a stove for the library. We need
Yeah, you should look into the induction cooktop. That wasn't very expensive. You can
yeah.
get one hot plate for $50,
Mhm.
but the two burner one, it works great. And so,
And I'm seeing like getting rid of our stove at home and having more countertop space, and that would be
mhm.
awesome.
Yes. Yeah, there's one thing that's often in a library, and that is a coffee pot. And like in congregations, they often have that big fancy Bun brand coffee pot. And those things take a lot of energy. So if you can bring yourself to turn it off at night and then turn it on again in the morning to make your coffee, that's a big energy savings. Or if you can't bring yourself to make time to turn it off and on, set it on a timer. You can plug a timer into the outlet, plug the coffee pot into the timer, and set it that way. So that's another good energy saver. Anything that creates heat uses a lot of energy. So that'll be the first thing you're going to look for. What things make heat, and how can I reduce their use? So that's for the household appliances. Um, yeah.
And then I
Um,
was gonna say, I was gonna ask too, is like, is there any action that people take that you should really try to avoid? I don't know if it's driving or um, again, just common things that people do that we don't even think about using energy or costing us money.
sure. Yeah, we could sure talk about so many different things outside of a building. And one of them is transportation. And that's huge. In Iowa, we don't have much in the way of public transportation, so we drive a lot. And so, for instance, in town doing errands, one thing that I suggest people do, group your errands, save them all for one day. You're doing errands in that part of town, put them on the list. If you're going to go way to the other end of the town, wait till you got a couple other errands in that end of town and go do them. So that saves a little bit of driving. Um, right now, due to COVID, a lot of us are buying things online instead of going to the store. That takes a lot of energy too.
Is it
So,
is it more energy efficient to shop in person than to shop online?
I don't really know the answer to that one. The most efficient thing to do is to really consider whether or not you need that thing that you're buying. Are you buying it because you're bored because you have to stay at home because of COVID? So really think twice about whether or not you need a brand new thing. Reuse, repurpose, borrow, swap. These are all things that you can do before you need to buy something new. Consider all of those things before you buy new. Use your library. I
Hmm.
stopped buying books years ago because the libraries are so awesome.
I was just thinking about getting when you were talking about getting a infrared camera for people to check out.
Yeah, get a kilowatt meter too.
We have like a thing you plug into the wall and then you plug the thing into it.
And it tells you how much energy it's using.
We have one.
And that's available for checkout.
Yep.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's great. That's how I figured out whether or not I needed to replace my refrigerator. I needed to see how much energy it was using, to see if I needed a new refrigerator. So that's an excellent tool to have. Yeah. You know, if we want to talk any more about transportation, electric cars are coming, folks.
Oh yeah.
They're going to be a lot cheaper to operate than gas-powered cars. And so if there's anything that you can do to advocate for electric car charging stations in your community so that they'll be ready for you when you finally purchase your electric car, that would be great. Hy-Vee grocery stores are putting them in across the state. Maybe you can use that knowledge to convince the grocery store in your town to install an electric car charging station. Some congregations are putting them in across the state. So think about where you want your charging stations. Maybe the libraries should
I was going
have
to say it'd be a good library thing. You know, people need something to do while the car is charging.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe some libraries could go in on it together and do a group buy.
Sounds like a good grant.
Yeah, maybe the GREEP grants would apply for that. I don't know if they would cover something like that, but it'd be something to consider. Yeah, so that's transportation. Trying not to use your car as much and think about transitioning to an electric car when the time comes to do that.
I'm actually writing that down on my list.
Great. Yeah.
Well, those are the questions that I came up with. I'm going to actually try and watch this again just to pick up on other things, just because I'm always looking for ways to save money.
Great. Can you let Meredith ask her question? I see she
Yeah.
has her hand up, and I don't know how to do that.
She should be able to unmute herself.
She can't unmute herself.
We should be able to. Meredith, do you want to type in your question?
Oh. Okay, I got unmuted. Thank you. It was blocking me for some reason. I've never seen that. I wanted to ask two questions back on one of your notes about the trees, like the $10 membership for 10 free trees.
Yeah.
Do you remember off the top of your head what organization that was?
Yeah, that's the Arbor Day Foundation.
Arbor Day. I had Arbor. I just didn't know what else was on it. Okay.
Yeah, Arbor Day Foundation, and they send you trees that are good for your zone. You can call and talk to them to make sure you get what you need.
Okay, and is that just for homes, or can it be for communities if needed, or primarily homes?
I'm not sure about that. But you could also check with your ag extension office to see if they have any free trees, or the county extension office.
Yeah, I know the conservation, the naturalists had talked about some being available probably before the derecho, but that's good. Then, as far as that one picture you showed with the water pipes being insulated, that really works well, even if it's because that's one of the things that I was mentioning before. Our library, we just have a crawl space, and it seems like a lot of the water pipes and stuff are toward the back of the building, but we've had them where they've frozen in the past. So unfortunately, like I said, we drip water when it goes down below zero and stuff. And make that much of a difference, do you think? Or does there like a tape or something you can put on them too, I've heard?
Yeah, they come in all thicknesses.
Okay.
And you can tape them shut. I would also stick a thermometer down there. Can you get one of those outdoor thermometers, those cheap little things, and stick it down in that crawl space and start monitoring the temperature?
Okay.
And you may want to insulate the crawl space as well. I'm not sure. It'd be best to talk to a contractor about that one.
Okay.
Because you probably need to be able to get in and out of there.
Yeah.
You don't want to block it with too much insulation. But yeah, those are really easy to install. They have that split down the side. You just open it and snap it on, and then you can tape it shut.
All right. Because we have that in our home for like near our hot water heater, but I just don't have a lot of faith that we'll do the same at the library for what's down there, but it probably will. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, it might help. Yeah. Yeah.
And
So I had a thing that popped up when we were talking about the roof insulation. My wife and I were watching I believe it was a Canadian home improvement show a couple of years ago, and they said that one of the best ways to tell if you have good insulation in your attic is whether or not you see the roof when it starts to melt, like right along the top edge, like right along the point of your roof. If you have poor insulation, it'll start to melt, and so you'll see the snow disappear there. So if you see the snow uniform across your roof, that means you have decent insulation.
That's correct. Yeah. Cedar Falls Utilities hired a pilot to do a flyover and take the images of the rooftops. And that's exactly what they were looking for. They did it in the winter, and they looked for the rooftops that had snow melted off of them, and they knew they needed insulation. That's how they were able to focus their efforts to improve home insulation.
After we learned that, we became very judgmental about other people's houses and insulation. Like, oh, they need better insulation in their attic.
Yeah. So the libraries, you should check out your insulation in your attics there and see what you got. Make sure
ours is okay. From that test, ours is fine.
Okay, great. Good deal. Well, thank you. If there's no further questions, thank you so much for having me.
Really thank you.
That. I enjoyed this. Can you share a copy of the recording with me too?
Definitely.
Oh, I forgot I was going to put the links in the chat box in case anybody wants those.
If you want to email me the links, I can just attach them to the description in the video.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay.
I'm not sure if the recording can see the chat.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. All right, good deal. And you can share them with Meredith and Denise as well.
Of course.
All right. Well, thank you. It was nice to meet you both. And have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.